it's Emily from Minerva. So today I've got a sew along video for you, and we're going to make this lovely messenger style bag with a lovely asymmetrical flap on there. And the sewing pattern that I've used is the Squiffy Sling, and it is a Sewing Patterns by Mrs H pattern. So as you can see, we've gone for a completely different look to what's on the pattern photo, just kind of show you don't always have to use patterned fabrics with a plain fabric for a contrast. We've gone for full on plain. I loved the instructions in here. It's full photo instructions. I found it really super easy to follow. So maybe you've made sort of some bags before, but you're looking to move on to something a bit more challenging but still nice and easy to follow, then this is a great pattern. So let me show you the bag. So what we've used here is I've used the Minerva Core Range fabrics. I've used the Core Range Leather Look fabric. This is a metallic sort of dark teal colour, so you can sort of see the lovely sheen on there. And then I've paired that with another Minerva Core Range fabric, and we've gone for the teal linen look fabric. Obviously everything you'll need will be listed below. We've even used both fabrics on the strap, which I show you how to do that. That's in the instructions. We've got a magnetic snap here, and then it's also an adjustable strap. It's got two pockets inside, so it can fill quite, you can fill it up and it will fit a lot in. We've got like a little slip pocket, which you can see there, and then a zip pocket also. So I'll show you how to do this in the instructions as well. And then I've used foam stabiliser as well, which really gives it that structure that you need even without anything in it. So don't forget to join the Minerva community online. My favourite thing about the Minerva community is the fact that when you're looking at fabrics online, you're not really sure how it's going to look in real life. The community there, people will post photos of the things that they've made with the fabrics from Minerva and the patterns that they've used from Minerva, and it just gives you a really good idea of what you can make. And that's kind of what I went for when looking at the fabrics. I looked at the shades and what people have used, not necessarily in bag making projects, but it gave me a really good idea of what these two might look like together. So don't forget to join the community. So let's get started. So here is everything you're going to need for this project. So as mentioned before, this is the Squiffy Sling by Mrs H Patterns. For fabric, you want two different types. So I use the Minerva Core Range Linen Look fabric in teal, and then to contrast with that, I use the Minerva Core Range, the soft faux leather in metallic aqua. I use the linen look fabric on the inside as well. I've also used the foam stabiliser. This is fusible. This gives your bag lots of structure. You're also going to need a 7-inch zip for the pocket inside. And as well as that, you're going to need a magnetic bag clasp. And you're also going to need some slide buckles and some rectangular rings as well. To begin, what you need to do is cut all your pattern pieces out. So there is two sizes in this bag. There is a smaller size and a larger size. I did the larger size. Some pattern pieces are for both sizes, whereas some is just for either big or small. So you can either just cut both sizes out so you've got them all for future reference and you haven't got to do this part again, or you can just cut out the size that you need. So make sure that you read all the instructions in terms of how many of each fabric and which fabric to cut out. So this is the large lining piece, and you need to cut one lining and one interfacing. I haven't used interfacing, obviously I've used a foam stabiliser. Now definitely learn from my mistakes here, because if you look on the pattern, if you can read upside down, it says cut one lining right side down. So the way that my bag ended up is that the flap is actually on the opposite side to what it is on the front of the pattern photos. This honestly doesn't matter as long as you stay consistent in popping your pattern pieces on the right sides, the right way up or the wrong side down, as long as you remain consistent with that. So I did actually use interfacing, fusible interfacing on my pocket pieces. Another handy thing about this pattern is it comes with little pieces of paper that you can cut out and pin them onto your pattern so you can keep track of which piece is which I found super handy, especially when you've got a bag pattern that's got you know, pocket pieces and things. So that's me just showing you labelling everything up. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm folding the lining piece in half, and with the iron I'm going to mark the crease so I know where the side seam is, because what you may notice is the front and back piece is all one big piece. So this just ensures that we can keep a track of where the halfway point is. Now on that centre part is a dart in the middle which gives the bag the shape for the side. So I'm using an erasable pen here to mark the top of the dart and then the bottom two parts of the dart. So make sure you use an erasable pen for this just in case, and then taking a ruler I'm going to match those points up just to simply copy that dart from the paper onto the fabric. The next markings I'm going to transfer is the pocket placement. So on the pattern there's pocket placement, and all I did with my pen is sort of puncture holes for the, it's basically marking the corner of the pocket. So I've marked the holes, and then again I'm going to join those up to make that same right angle so I know exactly where the bottom right hand corner of the pocket is. So now I've flipped round so you can see what I'm doing. So I've lined the zip pocket piece up with that right angle in the corner there, and I'm going to mark the pocket placement for the zip. We're now going to draw two lines, and the pattern tells you the distance from the bottom of the pocket piece that it needs to be, which is 4.5 inches and 4.1/8 of an inch up, or 11.5 centimetres and 10.5 centimetres up from the bottom. And then essentially we're going to draw a box which is 7 inches long using those two previous lines, making sure everything's centred. And this basically creates the window of the pocket. I'm then going to pin the pocket piece in place so nothing moves around when we come to sew it. To sew, we're going to sew all the way around the outer edge of the box. We're going to ignore that centre line that I drew through the centre of the box for the time being, and we're simply going to sew around the outer edge. To make this next part easier, we're going to use the iron and we're going to press the pocket piece down towards the stitching line on both top and the bottom of the pocket, as well as the sides as well. This just is going to make the next part a lot easier. If, like me, you used an erasable pen and it just disappeared when you ironed it, then you need to draw in that centre line. So it needs to go directly in the centre of the box that you've sewn, with two little triangles at the end to help you cut. And now we're going to cut all the way through the layer, so through the lining and through the pocket, up to those little triangles, and then cut into the corners. This helps you to be able to push the pocket through to the other side. And then push the fabric to the other side and give everything a good press. We now need the 7-inch zip, as we're going to pop the zip behind this pocket. So get your zip and put it behind the window that we've just created. And then it's up to you how you want to put this in place. You can use pins just like I have, or you could use some fusible tape. Whatever you tend to use to help you pop zips in, then you can use here. And to stitch in place, all we're going to do is sew all the way around the box, close to the edge, close to the zip. So you might want to use a zipper foot like I have here. The best advice I can give here really is go slow and steady. Take your pins out as you go and smooth your fabric down as you go as well. I always think it's nice to do a stitch length of about a 3 here as well when doing zips, more of a top stitch, just looks a bit more decorative. This is what it should look like from underneath, and we're going to fold the pocket down and we're going to pin that in place. You'll notice I've only pinned the sides and we're only going to stitch the sides. So when you're sewing this, you need to make sure that you're not sewing the lining, you're simply sewing the 2 pocket pieces together. The reason that we're only sewing the sides is because the bottom will become a way to turn the bag back round to the right side later on. Next, we're going to work on the slip pocket, so fold that in half right sides together. Again, I'm pinning the sides, but this time we're going to sew down the sides and a little onto the other side. Same at the other side, we basically need to leave a gap in the bottom edge for turning. And we're going to use a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to clip the corners to make the corners nice and sharp when we turn it the right way out. And then using the gap that we left, turn it the right way out and give everything a good press. I also stitched the gap closed with a top stitch on the machine. And then we're going to place this on the lining of the bag. So I've moved the zip pocket out of the way and I'm going to place this underneath, and the pattern will give you instructions on where you need to place it, how far up from the edge and how far away from the side. So that's what I'm measuring here. Pin that in place, and then we're going to stitch again down the side, across the bottom and back up to the top. I then worked on the base overlay. I turned it the wrong side, obviously I'm using the faux leather material, and you want to draw a line which is 1 inch down from the top of the base overlay. I then used double-sided basting tape, placed that at the top edge. Then I'm peeling away the tape and I'm going to use this to fold down that edge up to the line that we've just drawn on. So here I am peeling the tape away, and then I did use clips as well as I went along, so folded it down and then used the clips to secure it in place. Take your foam stabiliser, or if you've used normal wadding, and put it on the wrong side of your outer bag piece. Smooth it out, pin it on if it's fusible, iron it on, just so that everything holds in place. Just to make sure everything stays in place, sew around the outer edge as close to the edge as you can, just so that then we can remove the pins. Then using scissors or rotary cutter, cut away the bulk of the foam. This will make it a lot easier when we come to sew the bag together later on. This is where the bag really starts to come together. I'm going to take the base overlay and I'm going to pin this in place along the bottom edge. I'm using clips here, just because we've got the foam stabiliser underneath. I find that clips are a lot better than pins, but pins will still work. I'm then going to sew all the way around the base overlay to attach it to the front of the bag. As you can see here, I've switched to a walking foot. I found this absolutely amazing on this material. It just glides through like butter. A roller foot would work also, but I found the walking foot, especially with the foam as well. Your machine might be absolutely fine. Mine's is quite a few years old now, and I found that the walking foot just worked perfectly. Your pattern piece and an erasable pen. Again, we're going to mark where the magnetic snap needs to go. So with your magnetic snap, you're going to get 4 pieces. You're going to get the male and female part of the magnetic snap, as well as these 2 little discs. So we're going to use that to mark. So where we've marked the circle from the paper, we're going to put the disc on and mark the 2 little pieces at the side. Taking some scissors, snip through these little marks that we've made all the way through the material. I took some foam stabiliser as well and cut some little slits in there. Popped the bigger part of the magnetic snap through these holes. So the prongs will go through the holes, and then underneath I then got the foam stabiliser with the slits in, and I popped that underneath just to give it a bit more structure. As you can see, I was just prodding through the holes a bit more there. One's there all the way through. Obviously there's just a few layers of fabric, that's all. So you can see, popped that on, and then popped the little disc on top and bent the prongs backwards. Time to start constructing the bag together. So I'm going to fold the outer pieces right sides together, and I'm going to clip the side seam and the bottom seam. Make sure that your seam matches up nicely where we put the base overlay. So I clipped that bit first before clipping the rest of the side seam. Then over on the machine we're going to sew the bottom and the side seam using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Don't sew the cut out corners just yet. What I then did is I trimmed a lot of the seam away again to get rid of the bulk. And next we're going to work on the cut out corners. So for this you want to match the side seam up to the base seam, and then we're going to clip that in place, or again pin, and then we're going to sew across that seam. And then turn the right side out so you can see that everything then is sewn together. For the crossbody strap, we're going to take the fabric strap piece and we're going to press it all the way down with the iron. Obviously if you need to sew multiple strips together to get the length that you desire, then you can do that, which is what I believe I had to do. So I'm just pressing all the way along. Then you want to open that strip up and press each long edge to the centre crease. We need to essentially do the same on the faux leather part of the strap, but obviously we can't directly iron this. So the best thing to use would be the double-sided tape that we used previously, but I'd run out of this, so I ended up using like an adhesive spray and then got my clips to hold that in place. So this next bit, but what you need to do is pop the leather and the fabric strips wrong sides together, so those raw edges are on the inside, and you're just going to simply sew down both long edges, and then one of the edges you want to tuck the ends in. So now we're going to work on the adjustable strap. So you want to get the slide buckle. And so the end that I have finished is the end we're going to work with to begin with, and we're going to put that up and then down through the slide buckle. So now the slide buckle is in place and the strap is threaded through, and that can move along nicely. So I'm going to move that close to the end that we finished off, that we've just popped it through. And then it's better to watch what I'm doing here. So as you can see, I've got the fabric side facing up. I've folded down the finished end, and then we're going to sew across there to secure. Part of the strap as well I cut off, which you can see on the table, and I put that through the rectangular ring and stitched it in place as well, and I'm going to be picking that up shortly. It's best to watch which way up I've got, so I'm going to put the end that we've not sewn through the rectangular ring. I've got the fabric side up, and then the end I'm going to then put through the side buckle again, and then back down the side buckle again, and this is what makes it adjustable. If you need to rewind and watch this a few times, I always find watching somebody do an adjustable strap better than how you can explain it in instructions. We're now going to put the other part of the magnetic snap on the lining piece. So I've popped the lining inside the bag just so I could see exactly how it needed to be. And then I used my erasable pen to mark exactly where it would match up. And we're going to repeat the exact same steps as what we did with the other part of the magnetic snap. So marking the holes with the little rings, and then using another piece of foam stabiliser behind it just to make sure it's nice and secure. Obviously then I've took the lining out, popped the other part on, put the prongs through, popped the foam on, and then the backing and bent backwards. Now time to pop everything together. So I've got the straps and I'm popping these on the side seams, and as you can see I always pull the strap up to make sure that nothing's twisted, but make sure your straps are facing downwards in order for them to be the right way once you've sewn everything together. And just stitch in place to secure as long as you're within your seam allowance. We're now going to turn the bag back so that it is inside out, and then we're going to take the lining and we're going to turn that so that it's the right side out. And remember, we've left the gap in the pocket for turning later. So we're going to pop the lining into the main bag so that right sides are together, and then just take your time to line everything up and get everything pinned or clipped in place ready to sew. You want to make sure that your side seams are matching and everything's lined up. I opened my seams as well, just so it would be less bulky when everything's the right way out. So now we're ready to sew. We're going to sew all the way around the bag flap and all the way around the opening of the bag using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to secure the lining and the outer together. I've got my walking foot on again just to help through the layers, and this made it a lot easier. Snip away any bulk and the top corners of the flap just so that then when we turn everything the right way out, everything will sit nice and flat. Then reach into the bag once you've done this, and you're going to turn everything the right way out. The gap should be big enough, so it's the gap that we left in the zip pocket. But persevere, because obviously you have got quite a bit of bulk if you have used foam stabiliser like me, but the gap should be plenty big enough, so just sort of do it a little bit at a time to get it turned the right way out. So now all that's really left to do is get the gap stitched up and top stitch the bag. So pull the lining out of the bag and get your pocket, and you want to turn the raw edges inwards. You can press that with an iron if that helps to get it nice and flat, and then just pin or clip in place and then top stitch close to the edge along this seam. Then you want to push the pocket back in and then push the lining back in. Get everything nice and flat. Again, if you need to press this bit to make it easier, you can do. And then you're just going to top stitch all the way around the flap of the bag, taking care not to obviously get the magnetic snap. Around the flap and around the opening of the bag. I used a stitch length of 3 here, just because again I find a longer stitch length just looks nicer when it's being shown. So that is everything finished. I hope you've enjoyed this sew along. I really think you can make this bag your own. Don't forget to join the Minerva community. Thanks for watching everyone. Bye.